My final project I've been working on this week is a brand new one. You haven't seen it yet. Well, I started it as something else and then I switched it over, and that is Toaster's Canada blanket. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Nitty Natty. Welcome to episode 279 of the Love and Stitches podcast. Today I am coming to you from New Jersey. I'm at my friend Amy's house. I am here sort of alone right now. Not really. I've got 3 dogs with me. We have Toaster here. You might hear him tippy-tapping around, and her 2 dogs, super cute. They probably won't come into the background, but I might have to pause for a little bit of barking. I am in her beautiful office and yarn room, so we get a really nice backdrop here, like beautiful shawls, beautiful yarn, and it's just a nice, like, gorgeous sunny day. It's a lovely, quiet Sunday here, and I'm really excited to share with you all of my projects. I have had a really restful week, and I've done a lot of crocheting, mostly crocheting this week. I've done a little bit of knitting, getting through my socks for sock week. And other than that, I've been crocheting, which is unusual for me, but it's bringing me a lot of joy. So I think without further ado, let's start with the first projects. All right, let's start with my Florence Tee. I have made a lot of progress on this one. So this is the Florence Tee by Courtney A. Clark, also known as I Love Tinderbox, and it's really starting to look like something. This is a crocheted project, and it is the first crocheted garment I have done in a few years. I believe that's true. And it's already feeling like it's going to be my most successful crocheted item yet. I mean, look at the drape on this. It's so nice. That's been one of my difficult things, I think, for me and probably for others with crochet, is finding fabrics that you really like, and I'm really liking how this fabric is working up. So it's not a tank top. It is going to be a short sleeve top. I'm actually thinking I might add the sleeves pretty soon now that I've done a little bit on the body. So from last week, I had already finished the front piece and I was working on the back piece. I have my little donut stitch marker here. I cannot remember who I got this from. I've had it for quite a while, but I really love it. So I finished up the back and then I joined the body. And I have been working on the body. I got, I don't know, a few inches here on the body. And then I went ahead and did, gosh, my nail is snagging. I went ahead and worked the neckline. It was just 1 row. So I just worked the neckline and I wove in a few of the ends. There was a lot of different ends from all the different pieces just to make things look nice. And that's what I did this past week. I've been trying it on a lot. I have to say, love that it's so easy to try on a crochet project with a knitted garment. You have a lot more effort to put in to try things on. You need to get it either onto 2 longer needles or onto some tubing or something to get it on. And this, it's like, all right, I just pull my hook out and just put it on. And I'm trying it on and it's really great. And I also find that for my crochet stitches, they don't change quite as much from unblocked to blocked. So I'm getting a pretty accurate representation of how this is going to fit. Now, I did have to do some mathing and sizing things that I talked about last week. My gauge is not spot on. It's a little bit big. And so I ended up going down 1 size. So as I was trying this on, right now, where it's like hitting on me is like maybe right here. So it's a little hard to tell how it's fitting. It's looking very big. Like I like just visually looking at it and kind of knowing my size and then trying it on and seeing it have a lot of ease, I was a little bit worried that it was coming out too big. And I think this is true for 2 reasons. One, again, I'm mostly a knitter. I am used to working on a 24-inch cord. 24 inches is a lot smaller than my final fit, which is usually about 40 inches. And so I think I'm used to seeing a garment look very small when I'm making it and then putting it on, it's like my actual size, right? So seeing this be like my actual size looks very big in comparison. So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm like, oh no, it looks too big. And then the other reason is it's just short right now. And so when I put it on, there's like a lot of extra, actually just very much like this t-shirt, like a lot of extra space. And for my body type, because I am smaller up here than I am at the hips, I need that looser, more ease at the top so that when it does come down to, full length, it is looking great and fitting me comfortably all the way around. So just to be sure, since trying it on wasn't giving me peace of mind, I laid this out flat and I measured it across, and I am getting exactly 20 inches across, which means I should have a 40-inch finished piece, which is what I was hoping to get. So basically, it is coming out exactly how I want it to for it to fit. So I'm really, really happy with that. So my bust size is about 34.5 to like 35 inches. So this will give me 5 to 5.5 inches of positive ease, which falls in line with what the pattern suggests. So that should all be fine. But just to make sure, I do think I'm going to do the sleeves next. They're really cute short sleeves with lace on them. Plus this will give me a good chance to practice the lace before I get to doing it on the body, which will be fun. And also we'll just break things up. Like right now I'm in the monotonous part of just doing the same round over and over and over again for the body, which is nice because it's very simple and something I can do now without having to look at the pattern, which is great. But sometimes it's fun to like stop and do something else. So I'll probably focus on getting the sleeves done this week and then continuing on with the body. I have started my second skein of yarn. I think, let's see, where did I get to? I think I've woven in the ends already, but I probably made it down to like here before I had to join in a new skein. So that's when I stopped and I did the round around the neck. And then after I did that round, that took like no yarn at all, joined it to the body. And now I'm working through with my second skein of yarn. So this yarn is a sock yarn 75, I believe it's 75/25. I think I left a tag out here. I got this at Maryland Sheep and Wool this year, so feeling rather smug that I'm using it right away. Well, close to right away. It's been just over a month or so. It is from 29 Bridges, and it is the colorway Linen. Let's see. Yeah, it's a 75/25, and it's working up really, really nicely with this project. I do have 4 skeins of yarn, which is probably more than I need. I think for my size, it said I needed 3 skeins, but I'm thinking I'm gonna make it a little bit longer. And it was good to have a buffer, especially with my gauge thing. So that's where I'm at with this project right now. Very much enjoying it and enjoying crocheting. I have been doing a little bit of knitting this week. I have my first Sock Week socks on the needles, and I'm in this bag from World on a String Designs. There are more of these bags available if you are still looking for a bag. They're so cute. They've got this sprinkle fabric on the inside, the waffle cone on the bottom, which is like a nice canvas. I don't know, it has all these really cute little details. It's been the perfect project bag to put in my purse. So I've been using it as my on-the-go project. I am working on a pair of Vanilla is the New Black socks by Anae Fletcher, but I'm calling them my Huckleberry is the New Black socks because this yarn from So Happy Jane, one of our Sock Week 2025 sponsors, is called Huckleberry Sunday. So I have finished my first sock. I'd just gone past the heel last week. Oh, I have another Sock Week item. The little narwhals from the Littlest Charm Co. I think these are almost sold out. So I think the sock yarn and these are almost sold out, but everything is on nittynatty.com. So I finished up the first sock. I've been mostly working on this in the morning. So in the morning, especially when we're not in the van, I take the time to make my breakfast. I sit with my coffee and my breakfast and my Kindle, and I read and I knit. And so socks are really the perfect project for that. So there were definitely some other occasions. I think we went like out to lunch. I was in the car for a little bit where I got some of this done. But for the most part, this gets done in small 30-minute increments in the mornings. And I can make a decent amount of progress just doing that. I added in one of the contrast colors. This sock set comes with like a a blue, a purpley blue, and then this color. And so I added it in with little stripes. So I did 3 rounds of the contrast, 2 rounds of the main, 3 rounds of the contrast, 2 rounds of the main, and then started my toe. And I put that on my project page too. So 1, I wouldn't forget, and 2, in case you're looking for the information, you can find it on Ravelry instead of having to scrub back through this video. I did do an ergonomic toe, which just means that I did a different rate of decreases on the pinky toe side than I did on the big toe side. It's not super easy to tell from just looking at it, but this is actually a more gradual decrease, and then the pinky toe side is faster. So I think I do every 2 rows, no, every 3 rows here and every 4 rows here. And so this will actually be a left sock. And then on the other sock, I'll do the opposite and it will be a right sock. And I just find that fits me a little bit better for my toe shape. The Vanilla is the New Black sock pattern, has a strong heel in it. Hold on, I can't hold it up that way. And in the Love and Stitches membership, we are doing an exploration of heels. What am I doing here? That's better. We're doing a heel exploration for our July make-along to go along with Sock Week. And this is the first heel that we're starting with. So this heel type is called the strong heel, but I believe the designer of this pattern added in the ribbed feature. It's really fun. It's a heel I really enjoy doing, like while I'm knitting it. You do increases and you do short rows. I won't say too much more than that because it is a paid pattern. But what's great about it is when you are finished with all of that, you're back to your original stitch count for the foot and you can just carry on. I've done this heel. I think this is my 4th pair of socks doing this heel, and it works really nicely for self-striping yarns too. So after I finished up this sock, I wove in the ends and I immediately cast on sock number 2 because I want to have the second sock finish with the leg right before the heel increases so that starting July 1st, I can do that alongside my members. So I am doing a 60 stitch, the 60 stitch size, and then I'm just working away on the leg. I'm doing a pretty long leg, so 60 rounds before the heel. Okay, that's a lot for socks. I'm gonna move over my cutesy little stitch markers here later. So these will just keep on cruising. I am hoping to start a 2nd pair of Sock Week socks this week. The next heel we're gonna be going through in the membership is an Afterthought heel. So I'm thinking I wanna start my self-striping yarn from Polka Dot Creek. So I'll probably get that started maybe even before I finish that one. My final project I've been working on this week is a brand new one. You haven't seen it yet. Well, I started it as something else and then I switched it over, and that is Toaster's Canada blanket. So I have it right here. And okay, so let's go back. I am making a blanket as we're traveling around Canada, and I'm collecting yarns from each province. And so I'm making a blanket for myself. I'm using 2 different patterns, the Battenberg blanket and the Yorkshire crochet along blanket. That's not this blanket. So that one, I'm all caught up on my yarns, but I ended up with leftovers. And for each one, let me pull a couple here. For each one, I have approximately, I would say anywhere from 20 to 30 grams left over, which is not too bad. I could easily just kind of swirl away these scraps into a bigger scrap pile that I have back at my parents' house in Tennessee. But it was the suggestion of you guys to say, why don't you make another blanket with it? Why don't you make another blanket for Toaster, our dog Toaster? And so I really liked that idea, and I had some time last week to kind of think about it and start a new project. And I was like, wouldn't it be nice if I just get started on it and I have my blanket going? I already have the process for that one. Every time I get a new skein of yarn, I make my 2 squares, and then next in line would be use up the remainder of the scraps for Toaster's blanket. And then I would be, in theory, going back to Tennessee when we're done traveling with no leftovers from this project or this trip, which would be very different from my United States blanket where I have so many leftovers to deal with. I'm probably going to be dealing with it for the next 5 years. So I really liked that idea. And I thought, well, why don't I make my hexagon blanket? It's not my hexagon blanket, but it's the same blanket I did for my United States project. And it is a pattern by Not a Crawl Creations. I slightly modified it. I adjusted a few rounds and added a round. Anyway, I've got this project page. You can go and look at that project. So I did that, but I still had leftovers after doing a hexie. And so then I was like, you know, something just doesn't feel like it's not inspiring me to do this project. I don't know if it's doing the same thing again that was just not exciting for me, or if it was still having leftovers despite making a second project out of this yarn. But I kind of was like, you know, I don't think this is what I'm going to do. And then I said that on last week's podcast and you all gave me tons of suggestions. So thank you so much. You're definitely helping me figure this out. A lot of people suggested doing a corner to corner blanket where I could use up, you know, because my scraps are varying sizes, I could use up as much as I had. And for a few days, I was like, you know, I think I'm going to do a corner to corner blanket. That's something that I've never done before. It's something that I've wanted to try. And then a few more of you said you could do linen stitch or moss stitch. I think linen and moss stitch are the same thing. I actually don't know, so correct me if I'm wrong. But I had that, you know, a vision of what that stitch looked like in my head. And I was like, ooh, I think that would be really pretty. It'd be very easy, very simple, something that I could do. And so I kind of thought about that. And then a few more of you had suggested taking what I had already started with and just continuing around and making a fully hexagon blanket with all my other scraps. So I thought about that too. Honestly, for a little bit, I thought that's what I was going to do. And then yesterday was Saturday, I had the day off, and I thought, I'm going to figure this out today. I got to get something started because we're about to head back on the road. And once we're traveling, my brain is occupied with other things. I need this project thoroughly thought out and started and easy for me. So that's when I got back on Ravelry and I started looking stuff up, and I found, I got to make sure I say this right, Tony Lipsy's linen square temperature blanket. And so I was like, let me just try it, see how I like it. And that turned into me nonstop crocheting yesterday and doing all of this. So I have officially started Toaster's Canada blanket. I'm calling it Toaster's Linen Stitch Canada blanket because it's not a temperature blanket, even though I am using Tony's pattern and tutorial. So it's a free pattern. She's got it on her blog, and she also has a YouTube tutorial. Basically, once you get through the first 3 rounds, you just repeat the round after that. It's very easy. I needed about, 30 minutes to kind of, figure it out, listen to it, and then I was cruising and I didn't need the pattern anymore. So I think this is the right thing for me to do. So of course, in the middle, you can see the linen stitch. Isn't it fun? It's really easy. It's just a chain 1 and a single crochet. Really, really nice. I know linen stitch is like a pretty standard crochet pattern, but it's new for me, so I really enjoyed it. So I've got, a bigger square in the middle because my rounds were much smaller, and then the stripes are slowly getting smaller, which I will say is not my favorite. I don't love that, but I think when I continue to add more, the kind of chaoticness of it will be fine. Like it will all blend together and look nice. And at the end of the day, I really just want to be, I don't know if responsible is the right word. I want to use up my scraps. I want to not have so many leftovers and just use everything that I bought. I think that's where I'm really at right now with my yarns. So this is fitting the bill. It's simple. It's easy. It doesn't take me that long. I ended up adding, let's see, this was the first color, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm adding my 6th color in today. And then I have 2 more that I'm going to be adding in, these ones that I showed first, and then I'm caught up with what I have. I have a couple of yarns that I'm not going to be adding in, so this one that I used in my Canada blanket, there's just not enough left of it. I probably just should have started with it, but at this point, I don't even think it's going to make it all the way around the blanket, which I realize I'm probably going to have that happen at some point anyway, and that's all right. And then the other one I'm not adding in is this one, just because it's a totally different base. So other than that, those will just go in my other scrap bin, but I should be able to use up all of my scraps before we get back on the road later this week, which is going to be just wonderful. And then what have I not said yet? I'm using the same hook size that I'm using for my other Canada blanket, a 7, which is a 4.5 millimeter, and it's coming out super nice. The fabric on this, it's dense but drapey. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's like creates a nice thick fabric. When you lay it on you, it has a weightedness to it that's really nice, but not heavy and not stiff. So I'm really enjoying making it. I think Toaster will like it. Yeah, I just think it's turning out to be great. And the feeling, you know that feeling when you're working on a project and it just doesn't feel right? That's how I felt when I started this as a hexie. But when I started the linen stitch yesterday, I was like, this just feels right. And seriously, probably put 7 hours into this yesterday. Answer some questions. As always, we have some really great ones this week. And if a question arises while you're watching the podcast and you want me to answer it on next week's episode, just put it down below with the hashtag question in front of it so I can find it easily and answer your question next week. Okay, first one we're going to do is from Madeline. I'm actually going to read this question verbatim because I want to make sure I answer every part of it. You said, I am so excited to watch you make a crocheted garment. I only know how to crochet and enjoy making garments and would love to know more about making with natural fibers. But I get hesitant hearing from knitters how their natural fibers grow or block out. Do crochet stitches block similarly to knitted stitches? As someone with experience knitting and crocheting, especially blankets and wool and other fibers, do you see any distinct similarities or differences? Okay, happy to answer this one to the best of my abilities. And as always with all of these questions, I love your input. So if you have any tips for this question or any of the other ones, please put them in the comments down below. So I will share with you what I have experienced so far. I have not had a ton of experience with crocheted garments, so take this with a grain of salt. But in my experience, I feel like crochet stitches don't change as much as knitted stitches when they are blocked. Caveat being depending on the type of stitch that you're doing. So for very basic blocky stitches like single crochet, this project I'm doing extended single crochet, I would say anything that's more of like a smoother fabric, like just the same stitch over and over again, it doesn't change all that much. But if you were doing something that was very lacy, that is going to change a lot from pre-blocking to post-blocking. And then adding in the natural fibers there, I think natural fibers do change a little bit more than something that's going to have more synthetic in it. So something that is fully synthetic is probably not going to change that much. Something that is a blend, like I'm using a 75% wool and 25% nylon, that's going to change a little bit. And then something that's 100% animal fiber may change a lot more. Now, wool is very nuanced because depending on the way that wool is treated, whether it's superwash or non-superwash will affect it a lot. So non-superwash yarns don't tend to change quite as much. At least that's what I find in my hand knitted garments. And then different wool types, like an alpaca, is going to grow a lot more. So all that being said, there's a lot of caveats to it, but I feel like in general, knitted fabric, just because of the way that it doesn't have as much like structure holding it together, it changes a little bit more. And the one way that you're going to kind of hedge your bets on this is to swatch and to measure your swatch before and after blocking it. So it's really important, especially in garments, to have an accurate measurement of your fabric. And the only way to have that be accurate is to treat it the same way you're going to treat your final item. So if you are never going to wash your final item, then you don't need to wash your swatch. But if you're making a garment, you're probably going to want to wash it. At some point, you're going to spill something on it or sweat in it or just in general, you kind of want to wash it before putting it into a drawer for a season. So you need to do the same thing to your swatch. So when I made the swatch for my Florence Tee, I made the swatch. I made a pretty decent sized one. I usually try to go 2 inches past the gauge. So you don't want to make a 4-inch swatch. Usually gauge is listed over 4 inches because then you can't measure 4 inches because you're going to have the end stitches, which are smaller and behave differently. So I usually go for like a 6-inch wide swatch. So I'll take the per inch gauge and multiply it by 6. So if the per inch gauge is 5, then I multiply 5 times 6 and I get 30 stitches. So that's pretty good, right? That's going to give you at least 4 inches in the middle to measure really accurately. And then you want to make your swatch like, I usually don't go for 6 inches because I get really tired by then, but at least 4 inches is good for length, but best practice would probably be like a 6 by 6. So you finish your swatch, you cast it off if you're knitting, or you finish it off if you're crocheting, you lay it flat, you measure the row gauge and the stitch gauge, write it down somewhere. I like to put it in my Ravelry project page because I know that's not going anywhere. And then you wash your swatch and lay it flat to dry and just let it do its thing. And then you measure it again. And so then you have a comparison. You can see the before blocking and the after blocking, and that will give you the best information for your final item. What can happen a lot in garments because they are a larger item is that the weight of it is going to pull your stitches down. So it's going to draw your stitches in widthwise and make your stitch count like, I guess you have more stitches per inch when you get to that final item. So even when you are a very diligent swatcher and you measure your gauge before and after and you block it and everything, things still happen a little bit differently in the garment. So then your other way to hedge your bets, this is something I've been learning over the years, is to continue trying on your garment while you're making it. Continue taking measurements just like I did with mine. I laid it out flat. I measured the bust line now that I'm at the bust and I made sure, is that looking right? Is it close to my final measurement that I want it to be? If it was way bigger or way smaller, I would know that maybe something is off. And then I'm going to check my stitch gauge and see, hey, maybe my stitch gauge changed from swatch to final item. But continue trying it on. And if you can, block it as you go. So maybe once I do the sleeves, I will cut it off from I guess I don't have to even cut it off from my ball of yarn, but maybe I will go ahead and give it a wash. Take a day to leave it out flat drying and try it on then to just really make sure I like how everything is fitting up here before I carry on. I do that a lot with knitting for sure. So I hope that answered your question. And again, anyone can add to the conversation down below. It's very nuanced and complex, but again, just continuing to try things on is going to work best in your favor, and you'll actually see like how those natural fibers are going to grow or block. Okay, next question. I think I took a screenshot of this one as well. No, wait, is this a different one? Oh yeah, actually, okay, let's do this one. Sorry, I took screenshots of a couple of them this week just because I didn't want to summarize them. I wanted to make sure I got everything you were asking. So this question is from Taught Me Not 1640. Toaster. Toaster, you want to come down here? I don't know what he's barking at. Okay, your question says, can you share more about your journey from transitioning out of teaching? How long from the time you started your fiber arts side job did it take to become your full-time job? Did you fully replace your teaching salary? I am going into year 9, I'm assuming, of teaching. I have been thinking about leaving since year 5, and I just have no idea how to even begin that process. Okay, wow, congratulations, 9 years of teaching. That is really amazing. It is a tough job. I know it's not the only tough job out there, but it is really tough. I was a teacher for almost 7 years. I left at in April of my 7th year of teaching. I taught kindergarten in the classroom, and then I taught reading, small group reading for the last 4 years. So, and I was a teacher in Texas, and it was great, but it was not for me. I knew that from like the start. And I think I was always looking for what am I going to do next? So let me try to think. So I started on YouTube in December of 2018. At that point, I had been teaching, I think I was in my 4th year of teaching. So maybe I was in my 4th or 5th year of teaching, I guess. I was in my 1st or 2nd year of teaching reading intervention. So I had a little more time on my hands than I did when I was a classroom teacher, for sure. And so I started recording YouTube videos in the evening when I got home from work, on the weekends, and that pretty quickly started taking up a lot of my free time, but I loved it. I was doing a lot of tutorials then and podcasts and things. You can go back and watch. They're all on the channel still to this day. And that's when I really started things on the side. I also had, I think just before that, I had started doing some pattern writing. So I had a variety of things going on. I was writing patterns. I was making YouTube videos. Specifically on YouTube, it took me almost a year before I was making any money on YouTube via the ads that like automatically populate on YouTube. And pattern design is very hit or miss even today with different patterns. So that was, slow going. So definitely in those first few years, it wasn't really on my mind to ever have this be my full-time job. It was a dream for sure, but it was a dream that felt out of reach. I would say after a few years, I guess actually during the pandemic, I had a lot more time to work on things on the side because we were working from home. We had about 2 months, I think, 2 or 3 months where we were teaching from home. And then I had a summer, right? And so during that time, I really buckled down and did a lot. I actually started a second YouTube channel. I don't know. I just really started treating my kind of side thing very seriously, and things started to pick up and grow. And for that, I am so grateful. It certainly wasn't anything that could replace my teaching salary at the time, but it was starting to be enough to make me start considering that I could do this maybe as a part-time job kind of a thing. And so going into my school year 2020, I was like, in the next few years, I would really like to transition out of teaching. So I did that school year, and then it was I guess it was that school year because we moved to New York in April of 2021. So I guess it was that school year that I went into it thinking, I want this to be my last year of teaching. And so I think I just had that mindset of like, I have to figure this out before the end of this school year, or it's just not going to work for us. So in January of that next year is when I started the Love and Stitches membership. It was the best thing at the time because things were still not picking back up socially. It still wasn't safe. So having that online community was so nice. And that was kind of the catalyst that made things possible for me to really start to think, hey, I can do this like as a full-time job and support my family and everything. So I guess it was April of 2021 when I officially stopped teaching. Even at that time, it did not replace my teaching salary. I think I had to stop teaching to then have the energy and time to actually put into things. So we just had savings that we used for a while and took a risk, and it has paid off, which I'm really grateful for. But it was very scary, I won't lie. So let's see, December 2018 to April 2021. So really 19. So 19, 20, I would say anywhere from 2.5 to 3 years that it took for things to pick up. And I would say for the first year, it really wasn't any income at all. Everyone's going to be different. That was just my experience. But yeah, that's kind of the journey. And did I already say I'm really grateful that this is what I get to do for my job? It's amazing. Things just kept growing from there, and now we get to travel. And now my husband works with me, which is really cool and really amazing. Okay, next question. This one's like a totally different one. This is from Emma. They said they saw the weighted vest that I've been using. I've mentioned it in a video before. And what was that vest? Because they could not find it back in a video. So first, thank you for trying to find it. That's really nice. I was able to look it up, and it is called Rucker. So I started doing a lot more walking, trying to just be healthy and get outside and walk every day when I was at my parents' house. And I wanted to add a little bit to that. And so of course I got influenced, you know, from like Instagram and stuff. And I started hearing about rucking, which is carrying like weighted plates in a backpack. And I was like, I don't think I really want to carry a backpack while I'm walking. And then, you know, somehow I got introduced to weighted vests and found out about this company, Rocker, which is a women-owned company. They make weighted vests and they make rucking backpacks specifically for women. So I have the vest, the 12-pound vest. It's very comfortable. I would recommend it. I really like it. So occasionally, not every time I take a walk, but occasionally when I'm walking, I will wear the weighted vest, and it makes my walking a little bit harder and gives me a little bit of a better workout. So I really do enjoy it. Okay. This is another question about, a little bit about teaching tying into knitting. So this one is from Angie. How does my experience with teaching and with ballet influence my knitting and crochet projects? Okay, I can't really say that my experience with ballet has really influenced my knitting or crochet, or really teaching, but I think what teaching has influenced within my knitting and crochet is my continued love of teaching. I really enjoy making tutorials. For a time, I was doing online private lessons for people. So you could like kind of create your own private lesson. It's something that I did when I worked at Bliss Yarns in Nashville, Tennessee. But I've always loved teaching, and it's even more exciting to teach something that you love to do, right? So I was doing the online lessons for a while. I've done tutorials for a while. I don't do many tutorials right now because it's just that easy to film when you don't have like a well set up space, but that's something I'm hoping that I get to do when we are settled again, hopefully next year. I would love to be able to make lots and lots of tutorials. I did a whole sock series when I first started my channel. I did a whole basic stitches. So like basic stitches in knitting, basic stitches in crochet. I just love teaching so much. So I think that's how my teaching ties into knitting and crochet. It doesn't really influence my projects. I don't think it really influences my projects all that much. Maybe it does. I don't know. Maybe it does, but I guess I don't really think of it that way. Okay, this one is from Jen. How do you care for hand knitted tops? So I talked last week about how I wash my hand knitted socks, and I just throw them in the washing machine on cold with my other clothes, and then I hang them up to dry. I only recently started doing that in the last couple years once we started traveling, because I didn't have the opportunity to like fill a bucket with water and soap and wash it and wring it out. Like we just don't have the water for that. So I had heard that other people throw their socks in the washing machine, and so I tried it out. Now for my tops, I do not do this. One, I don't think they need to be washed quite as hard as something that goes on your feet. And two, my hand knitted tops are not always made out of like nylon, which my socks are usually 75-25 or 80-20, has a little bit of nylon in it, and I'm not as stressed about something happening to them. So for hand knitted tops, I will typically wash them just like I'm blocking them. So filling up a sink, or I have a small like plastic tub when I'm at home. I fill it up with lukewarm water, add my soap, whether it's like a liquid soak that you can use, or I have those bars that I like to use. I get them from various places, from Tuft Woolens. I will get those and I will use those. Get the water all soapy, throw things in there. Where I find my tops get like icky is under the arms, right? They'll get, like you'll sweat or get deodorant on them or whatever. So I will sometimes take a little bit of that bar soap and I will just like gently rub on the underarms, on the armpits, just to get those extra clean. And if I get a stain or something, I will also do that just very gently. Other than that, I just let it soak for 20 minutes, rinse it out, and lay it flat to dry. I do now have, I love this thing so much, I have a spin dryer. So I throw my item into the spin dryer. It spins out the excess water, and then pretty much every material dries like overnight when I do that. So that's really nice. It's definitely a luxury, not a need, but something that I really like having. So that's how I wash those. I don't wash them every time I wear them. So if it's something like a wool or other natural fiber, it really doesn't need to be laundered every time you wear it. Of course, that depends. If you're, outside and you're drenched in sweat, you probably want to wash it. But I would say it depends on what the item is. Like my hoodie, my traveler hoodie, I will probably wash that once a month and I wear it every single day. But I'm wearing a t-shirt, between. I have a barrier layer. Whereas like my short sleeve tops that I wear as a shirt, I would probably wear them like 3 to 4 times depending on how long I wear them. If I'm just wearing it to dinner, then it's fine. But if I'm wearing it for a full day, I may only do that once or twice. I'll usually leave it out, like lay it out to kind of air out before folding it and putting it away. But everything gets cleaned before being put away for like a season or whatever. So yeah, if you have thoughts and opinions on that, feel free to share that too. I know everyone does things a little bit differently. Okay, I think I have one more question today. I read these out of order, so just double checking. And this one is from Sabrina. Hi, Natalie. I love your channel. I was wondering if you had any tips on keeping your hands and arms loose when you're crocheting and knitting. After a short session, I can feel how tight my shoulders and biceps are. I'm not a new crafter, so I think it's just residual stress from the day. Okay, I love this question. I think this is such a good one. Who doesn't want to keep themselves from getting injured and hurt? So I'm going to tell you things you've probably already heard, but also give you a couple or at least one resource. So I think the best thing you can do is to rest. So taking breaks while you're knitting and crocheting. I usually try to do like, if I'm watching TV, every episode I'm getting up and I'm doing something. Like maybe I'm just going to the bathroom. Maybe I'm going to empty the dishwasher. Maybe I'm going to, I don't know, just do a quick like stand up and shake things out. I think just resetting, to giving yourself a few minutes break while you're doing like these long knitting sessions is really, really important. Another thing that I've found like time and time again that helps me is some kind of physical activity like yoga or something where I'm on my hands, like really strengthens and stretches out my whole body. So maybe you can do a couple of like stretches if you're like, what is it called in yoga? Just like a 4-point stance. Is that right? Where you're like on your hands and knees and you can like stretch and do like the little cat-cow thing, roll your wrists out. I think just doing some of that preventatively is so, so good. And then Andrea Louie, the knitting PT, is a fantastic resource. She has a lot of free material on Instagram and I think YouTube, and she also provides like consults. She talks a lot about setting yourself up to knit and crochet in a way that's very ergonomic and not going to injure you. And one of the tips that I use from her all the time is taking a small pillow and putting it in your lap to support your project. So maybe look at the project that's causing you issues and tension right now. Is it something that's large that you're having to hold up close to see? Maybe you need just a pillow to kind of support the weight of that project. I know with this one right now, during certain points of it, there was a lot of fabric hanging off of it. And I was like, God, this is really getting like tedious. And so I got a little pillow or like a blanket rolled up in my lap, and it just supported that weight. And it made me be able to kind of drop into a more comfortable position. So those are my tips. Again, please, anyone share what you have down below. Got 2 points of Yarny news today, and the first one is that the Sock Week Discord is now open. So Sock Week is our sock make-along that's coming up later on in July. It is July 20th through the 27th. So that's the challenge week, I would say. But we already got started weeks ago when all of the special products came out, and now the Discord is open. It is completely free this year. You can sign up on nittynatty.com. Discord is an online community. It's an app. So you will need to get the app, but the app is also free. But it's basically a more organized like group message. I don't want to say that because I feel like that's like what people don't enjoy. It's like a forum that is very, very organized and just for us. And it's really, really nice. So that's where we're going to be sharing our sock progress throughout Sock Week, talking about the yarns that we're using. There's a spot where you can ask questions. There's going to be a spot where you can suggest patterns. Just a great place to share in the community during this make along. And I'm already working on my socks because I am not going to make 4 pairs of socks during sock week. I probably will only make 1 sock. That's a challenge, so that's totally fine. So as you're preparing, maybe you make your first sock before the challenge week, whatever you're doing, you have a space to come and share all about that. So that is open. I will put the link to knitty90.com down below where you can go and join into the Discord. Come and join anytime you see this. The other thing that is coming up is Tour de Fleece. So Tour de France is a cycling or biking? I don't know. It's a race. You can tell I don't know much about this, but Tour de Fleece is based off of that, and it is a spinning challenge. So from July 5th to July 27th is Tour de Fleece. I have heard of this before, but I have never participated because I only learned to spin last October. So this is my first year getting to participate in Tour de Fleece. I'm not participating in any sort of official manner. I know there are yarn stores and different online communities that host teams. The only major website or website that wasn't through a yarn store I could find was Facebook. And I'm not really sure if that's the official place where Tour de Fleece's information is held. So if you have any information about that, I actually would like to know. But like I said, I'm not participating in any kind of official capacity, but I do want to start a new spinning project and create a little challenge for myself. So I'm starting to think about what that is going to be. Now, I was doing some spinning this week. Actually, I was doing some plying. I just didn't bring it here with me to New Jersey. I left it in Pennsylvania. And I have pictures though. So I kind of went wild and I have finished plying. Brianna let me borrow her spinning wheel, which is much larger than my tiny spinning wheel. So I was able to pack much more onto a bobbin. Plus it has a woolly winder on it, which automatically moves your yarn so that you don't have to stop and adjust your hooks, which is incredible. So basically I got a super speed, ability to be able to finish plying up my yarn. And so I completely finished it. It is waiting for me. I need to finish scanning it and wash it and all of that. But then I'm going to have a sweaters quantity, my first hand spun sweaters quantity, ready to go so soon. I'll show it to you next week. But for now, I have some pictures. So here are 2 of the enormous skeins that I have already skeined up. And then here are the 2 bobbins that I did on Brianna's wheel, which are waiting for me. They needed to rest. So I will get back to them and be able to skein those up and then soak everything at the same time and start something, hopefully very soon. I'm really, really excited for this. So since that project is now done, I want to do something for Tour de Fleece. What I have on me right now is I have a bat that I bought in, where was I? Nova Scotia, I think. I have some Rolags that Brianna made for me. And then I have just a comb top braid that I got in a class that I did at Maryland Sheep and Wool. So the Rolags and the bat are going to be new for me for spinning. And I think since I have been working on this massive project since February that I'm just finishing, I really want to do a palette cleanser. So I think I'm going to focus on just spinning the comb top and spinning through that, seeing how I can get spinning incorporated while we're traveling. Because it's been nearly impossible so far, but maybe I can do it, then I'm not flying. I don't know, we'll see. So that's going to be my first challenge. And if I get that done between July 5th and July 27th, maybe I will start playing with the Rolags and the bat. I think the Rolags and the bat are not going to end up being anything at the end. Maybe none of these projects. They will just be something for me to spin. Probably not enough for me to make something, or nice enough for me to make something, but we'll see. So that's where I'm at. If you're participating in Tour de Fleece, let me know, I guess, what you know about it and also what you are planning to do. This week, we've come down to New Jersey to spend some time with our friends, Amy and Ian. Kent also has been in the city in New York, spending some time with his friends. So it's been a really nice, relaxing week. We're going back to Pennsylvania tomorrow to reunite with our things and our van at our friend Brianna's house, Brianna and Michael's house. So let's get the biggest update out of the way. The van is better. Lydia is healed. We have her back. And it turns out that she didn't need a new transmission at all. It was actually something else. When they started to work on the transmission and started taking things apart, they actually found out that the issue we were having was not the transmission, but the skid plate. So all along, we could have had Lydia back. Anyway, I'm so glad they found it and that it's hopefully fixed. It was fine when I was driving it back from the dealership. So we're going to hit the road again this week and continue on in our travels throughout Canada. And I'm really hoping that things just go really smoothly. So we decided to, even though we had our van back, we still wanted to stay and hang out in the US a little longer, come down to New Jersey and see our friends, get our life back together. We thought we were going to have a minimum of 3 weeks here and maybe even longer. So like mentally, we were not ready to hit the road when our van was ready. So we were like, okay, we need a little time. But now we are ready. We're going to be hitting the road. Actually, when this podcast goes up, we should be back on the road headed to Toronto. So I hope everything is going fine at that point. You'll know from Instagram. So this week, what I've been doing is mostly just having a normal time, which is my favorite time to have. I've been getting to have 8 hours of sleep. I have been waking up and having my magic morning with my breakfast and my sock and my reading. I've been sitting at a table to work. I have been joining my friend Amy for walks with the dogs, doing some workouts. I mean, really honestly boring stuff, but stuff that brings me so much joy to get to do and just have a regular day. We've been spending the nighttime knitting, crocheting, and watching the Dallas Cowboys cheerleader show on Netflix, which is so good. So yeah, I've just been really enjoying just that casual, relaxed pace of things. It's been really refreshing and I feel ready to hit the road again. What else have we done? Oh yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not kidding. That's like all that we've done. But it's been really great. It's been really lovely. All right, that's everything for this week. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next one. Bye.